Imagine this. You've been in a car accident. You're injured, you need immediate medical care, and, well, you're relying on your insurance to step in. You're hoping for a straightforward path to recovery.
Hmm.
The system is designed to protect you, right, and to get you back on your feet quickly.
That's the goal, yeah.
But what happens when that very system, created with good intentions, allegedly becomes the intricate target of a sophisticated, multi-layered fraud scheme?
It's a scary thought.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into precisely such a scenario. Our focus is on an alleged insurance fraud ring uncovered by Liberty Mutual within New York's no-fault auto insurance system.
Okay.
And this isn't just about a few questionable bills. Our deep dive is based on a detailed legal complaint filed by Liberty Mutual. It outlines what they describe as a complex network of alleged fraudulent billing, medically unnecessary procedures, and, frankly, illicit financial relationships.
Sounds pretty serious.
It does. Our mission today is to unpack this complaint, understand the alleged mechanisms of the fraud, identify the key players, and most importantly, see what this all means for you, the patient, and, the broader insurance landscape.
Right.
So with that context, let's start untangling this.
Okay, so first off, New York's no-fault laws. They're designed to be efficient.
Right.
Their main purpose is to ensure quick compensation for accident-related medical expenses, other losses too. For claimants, this means benefits up to at least $50,000 per person. The idea is to reduce lawsuits and speed up care.
And a crucial part of that system, as I understand it, is that you, the patient, can assign your no-fault benefits directly to the medical providers.
Exactly.
Which lets providers bill insurers like Liberty Mutual directly. It sounds incredibly streamlined, almost, I don't know, too good to be true sometimes.
Oh.
But when you hear about alleged fraud, it makes you wonder, what's the specific vulnerability? What's the mechanism within that direct billing process that these schemes tend to exploit?
That's a crucial question. The complaint alleges that this efficient mechanism was actually central to the alleged scheme,
Oh, so?
precisely because it allows for, well, high-volume quick billing without immediate, really rigorous oversight on every single claim.
Ah, okay.
The key defendants identified in this complaint are Isaac Kreisman, he's an MD and owner of PARS Medical PC,
Got it.
Michael Garbolski, who's a physician assistant in our PAC, and Charles Swade, another MD, who owns CADS Anesthesia Services PLLC.
So we're talking about an alleged systematic scheme then, not just like a few isolated incidents.
That's exactly what the complaint alleges, a pattern.
Okay, what are the different facets of this alleged pattern that the complaint specifically outlines?
Right, so the complaint details several key categories of alleged fraudulent activity. At its core, they're accused of billing for services not provided at all.
Which is just fundamental fraud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there are allegations of billing for services that were medically unnecessary and billing at unlawfully excessive rates. They also allegedly ordered unnecessary procedures specifically to inflate the fees.
Wow.
And maybe most alarmingly, the complaint details alleged unlawful referral schemes and illegal kickbacks. What's really striking here is how these multiple violations seem to intertwine, creating a situation where the complaint claims these actions seriously jeopardize the health, safety, and well-being of claimants.
Jeopardize patients.
Yes, due to the defendant's alleged relentless pursuit of profits.
That's a powerful claim. And this wasn't happening in just one place, right? The geographic footprint seems quite widespread.
Oh, absolutely.
The complaint lists numerous locations across New York, Jamaica, South Ozone Park, various addresses in Brooklyn, Hempstead, the Bronx, Staten Island, Corona.
Yeah, the list goes on.
It really suggests a very large-scale coordinated operation.
It does. And the complaint offers some pretty revealing details about that scale. Dr. Kreisman allegedly testified that he had never even set foot in many of these referral clinic addresses.
Never even been there.
According to the complaint, no. And furthermore, Michael Garbolski, the physician assistant, was allegedly the one negotiating the lease terms with these clinics.
Okay, so that points to a more centralized alleged operation, maybe one that didn't need the main doctor physically present everywhere.
That seems to be the implication, yes. Like a hub-and-spoke model, almost, where patients were allegedly directed.
That sounds like a highly sophisticated network. Now let's dig into that alleged financial web.
Okay.
The complaint says the defendants allegedly paid rent to a pretty long list of, 18 referral clinics?
That's right, 18 are listed.
And the names are, they're all of Recidivism Management Services, Inc., Jackson Heights, Total Chiropractic, We Care Medical PC, What exactly makes these rent payments problematic in Liberty Mutual's view?
Well, the complaint alleges these payments weren't legitimate rent at all.
Okay.
Instead, they were purportedly illegal kickbacks for the referral of patients, essentially forming an unlawful referral relationship, which is a big no-no under New York public health law.
Illegal kickbacks disguised as rent.
Exactly. And here's where it gets, well, particularly insightful, I think.
Go on.
The complaint highlights that many of these very same referral clinics allegedly have a history.
Right, history.
Yeah, a history of being sued in previous insurance fraud, racketeering cases.
You're kidding. Like who?
Well, for example, Finesse Care Physical Therapy PC was allegedly owned or controlled by non-licensed individuals using shell companies.
Wow.
Rose Chiropractic Health and Wellness, PC, allegedly falsely billed for unnecessary treatment using predetermined protocols. Diana Bainan, DC, allegedly performed fraudulent services to support illegal kickback or self-referral arrangements.
So the same names keep popping up.
And Surgicare of Brooklyn, for its part, was alleged to be a facility for medically unnecessary surgeries, potentially as part of staging accidents.
That pattern, it's not just coincidence, is it? It suggests something deeper.
It really suggests a deep-rooted, perhaps interconnected vulnerability within the system that, repeat offenders seem to exploit.
It highlights how these alleged schemes often leverage existing bad actors. Makes it harder for insurers and regulators to keep up, I imagine.
Definitely. It compounds the problem.
And despite admitting to these, quote, financial relationships, the defendants allegedly failed to provide the necessary self-disclosure notification required by law.
Correct. Required by New York public health law.
Why is that non-disclosure so important for their eligibility to get paid?
It's a make-or-break detail, really.
Okay.
If that disclosure isn't made, the provider is legally ineligible for no-fault payments, period.
Oh.
Regardless of the services rendered. It directly impacts their right to reimbursement.
So failure to disclose equals no payment.
Supposedly, yes. And furthermore, the alleged kickback scheme wasn't just external, between PARS and the clinics.
Oh.
The complaint details an internal kickback, too. PARS Medical allegedly leased space to CADS Anesthesia.
The other defendant's company.
Right, and CADS Anesthesia paid PAS Medical a monthly rent of $10,000.
10 grand a month.
Yep. And this payment, the complaint claims, was disguised as rent, but it is actually a payment for the referral of patients.
So layers within layers.
It demonstrates an alleged multi-layered approach to illicit financial gain, even within their own operations.
Which brings us to the alleged treatment protocol itself and how it impacted the patients. The complaint describes the operational flow starting with PARS medical nurse practitioners performing cursory initial evaluations at these referral clinics.
Yeah, cursory is the word used.
Allegedly not getting legitimate medical histories or even making proper diagnoses. So what typically happens next in these kinds of alleged schemes if the initial evaluations are, well, a sham? Are patients then pushed into further, maybe unnecessary treatments?
That's exactly the complaint's claim. These evaluations, however brief, were allegedly used to falsely justify medically unnecessary diagnostic procedures, injections, and surgeries.
All to do what?
To extract the most money from the insurance benefit. The documentation itself was allegedly formulaic. Almost every claimant supposedly suffered from weakness of decreased sensation, even for low-impact injuries.
Like a template.
It reads like a template, yeah, rather than a genuine patient assessment.
That's a serious red flag. Suggests a systematic approach to just inflate claims.
Definitely.
And it gets even more concerning when you look at the type of care provided. The complaint emphasizes patients were allegedly pushed into invasive pain management injections, surgery, without even trying conservative care first, or even when conservative care had actually worked.
That's the allegation, which directly contradicts Dr. Kreisman's own alleged testimony. He apparently stated pain management should only be used if a patient fails conservative measures.
But the practice was allegedly the opposite.
According to the complaint, yes. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it really pits patient well-being against alleged financial gain. The complaint alleges patients were exposed to serious bodily harm.
This is terrible, if true. That alleged disregard for standard practice and patient safety is critical here.
It really is. Now, diving into the specific allegations of unnecessary and fraudulent billing, a big part focuses on injections.
Okay.
For example, epidural steroid injections, ESIs. These are usually simple, quick procedures done in a doctor's office.
Right.
They were allegedly billed unnecessarily, using various CPT codes like 62321 or 62323.
And the same thing for facet joint injections and trigger point injections, allegedly billed unnecessarily.
Yes, same allegation, unnecessary billing.
What about CPT code 76942? That's for ultrasonic guidance, isn't it? Why is that significant here?
Yes, ultrasonic guidance. The complaint alleges this code was unnecessarily billed right alongside these injections.
Why necessary?
It argues that for procedures like trigger point injection, the taut band in the muscle can be felt manually. You don't need ultrasound.
Ah, I see.
So using it serves no purpose other than to artificially inflate the charges. It's a classic example of alleged upcoding, basically billing for more than you need to do.
Makes sense. Now, beyond injections, the complaint details some really serious allegations about percutaneous discectomy.
Oh, very serious.
These invasive procedures, which allegedly take just mere minutes to perform,
Yeah, surprisingly quick, according to the filing.
were supposedly misused, not medically indicated, and characterized as surgeries to bill, what, tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars?
That's the claim, tens and sometimes hundreds of thousands. A massive claim of upcoding.
It really is.
And the complaint highlights a crucial detail about the coding itself, improper CPT coding.
How so?
Cervical percutaneous disectomies, they should apparently use an unlisted CPT code, 64999,
Oh.
but they were allegedly billed using CPT code 63075.
And what's 63075 for?
That code represents a much more complicated and serious open spine or traditional disectomy procedure.
Whoa, so billing for major open surgery when maybe only a minimally invasive procedure was done.
That's the allegation. It's not just inflating fees, it's fundamentally misrepresenting the severity and nature of what was done. And this directly contradicts Kreisman's alleged testimony that these procedures were non-invasive.
A direct contradiction.
Yes. And further, the complaint states there was billing for anesthesia from CADS Anesthesia
The other company.
and even a second doctor during these procedures, which were allegedly completely unnecessary and just served to artificially inflate the claim.
Wow, that's a lot of specific medical and billing jargon. For you, the listener, the key takeaway here seems to be they were allegedly billing for things that were either not needed, not done properly, or using codes that dramatically inflated the cost.
That's a good summary.
And sometimes it sounds like maybe even endangering patients in the process. And it gets even more alarming with the alleged billing for IDE procedures, intradiscal electrothermal annuloplasty. What's the issue there?
ITET. Well, the complaint points out that the vast majority of the medical community abandoned the procedure more than a decade ago.
Abandoned it.
Yeah. To emphasize how outdated it is, CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, ruled it not reasonable and necessary for Medicare beneficiaries way back in 2008.
2008. And they were still allegedly billing for it.
Allegedly, yes.
Yeah.
Which suggests, perhaps a willingness to use outdated or discredited methods just for financial gain.
That really drives home the alleged lack of medical necessity. And finally, the complaint mentions alleged fraudulent billing for epidural, CPT code 72275. Why is that one significant?
Right, epidural. This is an uncommon diagnostic test, usually only needed if an MRI or CT scan isn't enough.
Okay.
The complaint emphasizes that just using contrast dye for needle guidance, which is common in injection procedures, that's not an epidural. It shouldn't be billed separately.
Got it.
And here's a critical detail. CPT code 72275 was actually deleted effective January 1st, 2022.
Deleted, but they still billed for it.
Allegedly, yes, which indicates either, well, a profound lack of awareness of current billing practices or, as the complaint alleges, an intentional effort to bill for services that just shouldn't be compensated anymore.
So the alleged violations extend to broader billing practices too, like unbundling. The complaint says they allegedly engaged in unbundling by billing separately for fluoroscopic guidance using CTT code 77003. What does unbundling mean here?
It basically means billing separately for something that should already be included within another service's code.
Oh, double dipping.
Exactly. Fluoroscopic guidance is already considered integral to the codes used for techniques such as ESI and facet blocks. So billing for it separately is like double billing for part of a single procedure, just an alleged tactic to artificially inflate the total cost.
Right. Another critical point, the alleged illegal billing for independent contractors.
Yes, that's a big one.
New York law requires professional corporations, PCs, to use owners or employees for services to be eligible for no-fault compensation.
Correct. W-2 employees, essentially.
But the complaint details the allegation that PARS Medical's nurse practitioners were actually independent contractors.
based on several factors,
Like what?
like working at their own convenience, having other employment, not getting meaningful benefits, lacking fixed schedules, no malpractice policy being provided by PARS, things like that.
So what does this classification issue mean for the legitimacy of their claims if they were independent contractors?
It means that if those services were indeed provided by independent contractors, then under New York law, PARS Medical, the professional corporation, would not be eligible to collect no-fault payments for those services.
At all.
At all. It renders those bills ineligible for reimbursement regardless of whether the service was medically necessary or performed correctly. It's about the structure of the business.
And that leads us straight to the legal ramifications and the damages Liberty Mutual is seeking. The complaint alleges violations of the federal ICARE Act, racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations.
Yes.
What does bringing a RICO claim mean in this case? That sounds serious.
Well, it's very serious. The RICO Act accusation essentially alleges that the defendants intentionally violated the laws of the United States by using the U.S. mail
Using the mail.
to send false medical documentation, invoices, and bills to further their scheme. This isn't just about individual fraudulent acts. It alleges a pattern of racketeering activity, basically arguing it was a long-term, organized criminal enterprise.
A pattern of racketeering. Wow. Beyond RICO, Liberty Mutual also makes claims of common law fraud and unjust enrichment.
Correct, alleging intentional false statements, concealment, basically saying the defendants were wrongfully enriched by the payments they received through these alleged false pretenses.
And the amount of alleged damages is substantial.
Yes, very substantial. Liberty Mutual is claiming over $827,647 for 42 cents that it says it was wrongfully induced to make.
Over $750,000.
And that breaks down to over $785,426 for PRs and medical and about $42,221 for CADS anesthesia. These figures really highlight the significant financial impact such alleged schemes can have.
Absolutely. And finally, Liberty Mutual is also seeking something called declaratory relief. What's that?
Declaratory relief is basically asking the court to make a formal statement, a declaration,
About what?
that Liberty Mutual is not legally obligated to make any further payments related to this alleged scheme, or any future claims submitted by these defendants, given the alleged unlawfulness of the services and billing.
So trying to stop the bleeding, essentially.
Exactly. It's an attempt to halt any ongoing or future financial drain from these alleged fraudulent activities and potentially establish a legal precedent.
Well, this deep dive into Liberty Mutual's legal complaint against PARS Medical, CADS Anesthesia, and the individual defendants, it really reveals an alleged scheme of remarkable intricacy and scale.
It truly does. From kickbacks disguised as rent to medically unnecessary procedures allegedly performed just to inflate bills. The layers of alleged fraud are, well, astounding.
With significant financial and critically patient safety implications.
Absolutely critical patient safety concerns.
It certainly makes you consider how these complex regulatory systems, designed to help people quickly and efficiently when they're vulnerable.
The no-fault system's intention.
How they can sometimes become targets for such elaborate schemes. What might be the broader implications, you think, of this type of alleged fraud on insurance costs for everyone, or even on access to legitimate health care if resources are being diverted like this?
That's the big question, isn't it? The ripple effects.
Yeah, definitely something worth thinking about long after our deep dive ends today.